One coffee company paid $16 million over a number printed on the front of the can. Not the ingredients, not a recall, a number. Your canister says it makes 240 cups. Do the math on the back label and it comes out to about 173. I pulled the court filings on Folgers, Maxwell House and Dunkin. 7 things the can does to you. And the answer at number 1 is not the one you're expecting. Here's the setup, and you can verify every piece of this yourself in about 2 minutes with a can you already own. Almost every canister of ground coffee in America has a number on the front, makes up to 240 cups, makes up to 380 cups, big, bold, right where your eye lands. Turn the can around and there are brewing instructions. 1 tablespoon of grounds per 6 ounces of water. 1 tablespoon, 1 cup. So the front label makes a promise, and the back label tells you exactly how to test it. Starting around 2020, a wave of consumers did test it. They filed lawsuits. Federal courts in Florida, California, Illinois, and Missouri. And the numbers those complaints put on the record are the reason for this video. Number 7, the 3 words doing all the work. At number 7, the phrase makes up to. Read the front of your can again. It doesn't say makes 240 cups. It says makes up to 240 cups. Up to. Those 2 words are among the hardest working words in American advertising. Up to is a ceiling, not a promise. Legally, it's satisfied by any number at or below the figure. Technically, a can that makes 40 cups still makes up to 240 of them. You don't read it that way. Nobody reads it that way. When you're standing in the aisle comparing 2 cans, that number is doing exactly one job in your head. It's telling you which can is the better deal. And that's the whole point of putting it there. Watch for this phrasing once and you'll see it everywhere. Up to 500 sheets, up to 12 hours of battery, up to 30% off. Every time, it's a number that looks like a specification and functions like a mood. Number 7 is the escape hatch in the language. Number 6 is the instruction that contradicts it. 2 sets of directions, 2 different answers. At number 6, the brewing instructions that don't agree with each other. Here's something the lawsuit surfaced that almost nobody notices. Many coffee cans give you 2 different ways to measure. There's the single serving method, 1 tablespoon of grounds, 6 ounces of water, 1 cup. And there's a pot method. Something like 8 tablespoons makes 10 cups. Do the arithmetic on those 2 and they don't match. Under the single serving method, 10 cups cost you 10 tablespoons. Under the pot method, 10 cups cost you 8. The pot method is more efficient with the grounds. It stretches the can further. So which one did the company use to calculate the number on the front? The complaints argued this cuts both ways for the consumer. If you brew a single cup at a time, the way an enormous number of people actually drink coffee at home, you're using the less efficient method and you'll fall short of the front label number faster. 2 sets of directions on 1 can, producing 2 different answers, and the front label picks whichever one flatters the product. Number 6 is the moving target. Number 5 is where it stops being about words. The math you can do tonight. At number 5, the actual arithmetic. This is the part I want you to do yourself. Here's the calculation straight out of a filed complaint, and it's simple enough to do standing in your kitchen. 1 tablespoon of ground coffee weighs about 5 grams. Take a 30.5 ounce canister of Folgers Classic Roast that says it makes up to 240 cups. To make 240 cups at 1 tablespoon each, you would need 240 tablespoons. At 5 grams each, that's 1,200 grams of coffee. The complaint states the net weight of that canister is 865 grams. 865 out of 1,200, that's 72% of what you'd need, which works out to about 173 cups. Not 240, 173. The same complaints ran this on other sizes. A can advertising 380 cups alleged to produce around 265 to 275. Cans advertising 210 cups alleged to produce roughly 150 to 160. Roughly 30% short, again and again across product lines. Now go do it. Look at your can, find the net weight in grams, divide by 5. That's how many tablespoons are in there. Compare that to the number on the front. I'll wait. Number 5 is the gap in the arithmetic. And number 4 is the company that wrote a check over it. The $16 million check. At number 4, Maxwell House. In 2020, a consumer in Florida sued Kraft Heinz over exactly this. The complaint covered dozens of varieties of Maxwell House ground coffee, along with the Euban brand, alleging the cans could not brew the number of servings the labels claimed. The example in the filing, a package stating it makes up to 90 cups from a tin that the plaintiff calculated contained substantially less coffee than 90 tablespoons would require. That case ended in a $16 million settlement. The federal judge who granted final approval opened his order by calling the settlement good to the last drop, using the brand's own 100-year-old slogan back at it in a court document. That's an unusual thing for a judge to do, and it tells you how the case looked from the bench. Customers with receipts could claim 80 cents per unit up to $25. Without receipts, 80 cents on up to 6 units. Now, the part I have to say clearly, because it's true and it matters, Kraft Heinz denied any wrongdoing, and the court never ruled on the merits for either side. A settlement is a business decision to stop litigating. It is not a finding of guilt, but $16 million, plus an agreement to change the labeling, is a substantial response to a claim a company says is baseless. Number 4 is the settlement. And if you think that means the court settled this question, wait until number 3, because a different company took the same claim and beat it. The case Folgers won. At number 3, Folgers. And this one surprised me. Folgers, owned by the J.M. Smucker Company, faced the same theory. Multiple suits across several states, eventually consolidated into a single multi-district litigation in Missouri. Folgers did not settle, they fought it. And in 2025, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals rejected class certification. I want to be very precise about what that means, because it's the kind of thing that gets reported badly. The court did not rule that the labels were accurate. It ruled that these consumers could not be grouped together into a single class. The reasoning was that consumers vary too much, whether they read the label at all, how they interpret the brewing instructions, how strong they like their coffee. Too much individual variation for one collective case. So Folgers is not liable to a class. That is a real legal outcome and it counts. But notice what it doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you the arithmetic on the can is correct. That question was never answered. The case ended on who can sue together, not on whether the number is right, and you can still run the math yourself on the can in your kitchen tonight. The 8th Circuit's ruling doesn't change what your scale says. Number 3 is the case that ended on a technicality, not on the truth. Number 2 is the brand that isn't in any of this, the empty file. At number 2, Dunkin. I went looking for a comparable case on Dunkin's packaged retail coffee, the bags and cans in the grocery aisle, not the drive-thru. I didn't find one. And I want to handle that honestly, because this is exactly the point where a video like this usually cheats. The easy move would be to tell you Dunkin is therefore the clean one, the winner, the safe pick. That would make a satisfying ending, and it would be completely unsupported. An empty file is not a clean bill of health. It might mean the labeling is accurate. It might mean nobody has run the numbers on it yet. It might mean a case exists that I couldn't locate. No lawsuit is not the same as no problem. It's just no lawsuit. Dunkin has faced other consumer suits as a company. A case over its Refreshers drinks was dismissed by a federal judge in early 2026, with the court finding the fruit names described flavor rather than ingredients. Those cases concerned the chain, not the bag of grounds in your cupboard. So here's what I'll actually tell you about Dunkin packaged coffee. Run the same math on it that you run on the others. Net weight in grams, divided by 5, compared to the front label. The test doesn't care about the brand name. Number 2 is the absence of evidence, which is not evidence of absence. Which brings us to number 1, and this is the one that reframes everything above it. Nobody has to make that number true. At number 1, there's no rule that the cup count has to be right. Think about everything on this list for a second. A wave of federal lawsuits, a $16 million settlement, an appellate ruling, years of litigation across multiple states. All of it happening because of a number that no agency defines, no agency verifies, and no agency requires to be accurate. The net weight on a food package is regulated. It has to be truthful and it's enforceable. That's why the complaints all built their case on net weight. It's the one number on the can that has to be real. The cup count is a different animal entirely. It's a marketing claim. There's no federal standard for how strong a cup of coffee is, no required brewing method to calculate from, no definition of what suggested strength means. The company picks the assumptions, does its own arithmetic, and prints the result. And when a claim isn't regulated in advance, the only mechanism left to challenge it is a consumer lawsuit filed years after the fact, which is expensive, slow, and, as Folgers demonstrated, frequently unsuccessful. That's the real story here. Not that one brand is honest and two aren't. It's that the number you're using to compare brands in the aisle is the one number on the package that nobody has to stand behind. The regulated number is on the back, in small print, in grams. Number one is that the useful number and the prominent number are not the same number. Alright, so how do you actually buy coffee without any of this touching you? 3 habits. None of them cost you anything, and all 3 work regardless of which brand you prefer. Buy by the gram. Start here. Ignore the cup count completely. Buy on price per ounce or price per gram. Find the net weight. It's on the front or the side, usually near the bottom, and it's legally required to be accurate. Divide the price by it. That single number lets you compare any 2 cans in the aisle honestly in about 4 seconds, regardless of what either front label promises. Most grocery shelf tags print unit price for you already, which makes it faster still. The cup count is the company's arithmetic using the company's assumptions. Price per gram is yours. Measure once and you're done forever. Second, find out what a cup of coffee actually costs you. Every one of these lawsuits hinged on an assumption about how much coffee you use per cup, but you already know how you like your coffee, you just haven't measured it. Do it one time. Make your normal pot the way you normally make it and count the scoops. Now you know your real consumption per cup, and you can calculate how long any can will genuinely last you. You'll probably find you use more than 1 tablespoon per 6 ounces. Most people who like coffee do, which means the front label number was never going to apply to you anyway, whatever the courts eventually decide. One measurement, and the marketing claim becomes irrelevant to your life permanently. Buy whole bean and the problem disappears. And at number 1, the move that solves all of it at once: buy whole bean. Here's why this is the real answer, and it goes deeper than freshness. Ground coffee has a density problem baked into it. Grind size changes how much coffee fits in a tablespoon. A fine grind packs more mass into the same spoon than a coarse one, so the entire tablespoon equals a cup assumption. The assumption the front label is built on, the assumption the lawsuits argued over, is a moving target that depends on how the beans were ground before they ever reached you. Whole beans don't have that ambiguity. You buy a weight, you grind what you need, the bag tells you grams, and the grams are real. You also get coffee that hasn't been oxidizing in a warehouse since it was ground, which is the part everyone talks about and which is genuinely true. But the reason it belongs at number 1 on this list is subtler than taste. Whole bean is the only form where what you're buying and what you're measuring are the same thing. A cheap hand grinder costs less than 2 cans of coffee. It's a one-time purchase that ends this entire category of problem for you. Here's what I keep coming back to. Not one thing in this video was hidden. The cup count is on the front, the brewing instructions are on the back, the net weight is right there in grams. Everything you'd need to catch the gap has been printed on the can the whole time, in public, on a shelf, for years. It took federal lawsuits in 4 states for anyone to do the arithmetic. So here's your rule, and it takes 10 seconds. Ignore the cup count, find the net weight in grams, divide by the price, and compare that. That's the number that has to be true. And once you start doing that, you'll notice the same shape everywhere in the store. A big prominent number that isn't regulated, sitting next to a small one that is. Servings per container, loads per bottle, sheets per roll. The pantry aisle is full of it, and one category does it worse than coffee. That video is on your screen right now.